And we've
And
had conversations. I think we've had at least 2 conversations in the last week and a half about like you can't go out getting haircuts and like
no,
my hair is so simple and like nothing. Like I don't do anything. Like I'll just shave it here in a little bit. But your hair's usually done up pretty nice. Like you know, there's a little bit of
usually,
effort in there. It usually looks pretty good. So you can't just like shave it. Like I play
right.
really, really simple and easy because I don't have any style at all. So like, you know, my cat's gonna continue to bug me the entire time that we're live. But
That's okay.
anyway, we are live here. Recap master chat. And Chad got to moderate. It's been a while since you
I
moderated chat.
did. It has been a
It's been a
while.
while. So this was a good one. So I'm gonna ask you what I ask everyone after they're done moderating, mate. Like, how do you feel after that? Like, how was it? How did it go?
Honestly, like I always forget how quick and fast and many things are going on every time I moderate. I'm just like, oh, I've moderated before. We've done this. And then I get there and I'm like, holy crap, I got to keep up with all of this.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly what I did. Was it last week that I moderated? Yeah, last week. Like when we got done, I'm like, I forgot how fast it is. Like as the moderator, because you're in a different role, so you're thinking differently.
totally,
You're not
totally.
as casual about it. You're not as I'm just here in the conversation. You're like, I have to make sure I want to get to everyone. I want to answer all these questions because they're the questions that I threw out
Yes.
and stuff like that. So, yeah, totally get it. So crazy. It was a good chat. I mean, it was crazy. It was
It
another one of those
was.
ones where I know, like, as we'll talk, and if we reference anything, we both were in the chat, but probably had completely different experiences because you get all these little side shoot conversations and everything like that, and it just gets a little bit crazy there. Hi, Joe. Hi, Jackie. Hey, Jeff. Jeff says that was awesome. And Be Live apparently thinks it's so great that it put it up there twice in our little comments. So that's good.
That's, yeah.
I think I beat Jeff. I think I beat Jeff for getting. He and I always do the Channing Tatum. My name is Jeff. I think I beat him tonight. It's the first time for
No.
a while. So hey, Jeff, and Chad. Joe, getting them all in there. Good to see you, Joe. Jeff just says Kaplan. That's your last name. You're correct. So he's out of quarantine, which is great. We figured that out. I think it was this morning. So that's good. So let me ask you, Chad. Sort of when you were coming up with let's be real here. Let's be transparent. This was like last week. I'm like, hey, Chad, you're moderating next week. And you're
Sure.
like,
That's how
okay,
we
cool. Let me
roll on
talk about
Systematic
it.
Team,
Think
baby.
of something that makes sense for right now. And it was funny because I was actually in Basecamp, our tool that we communicate with and stuff. And I was actually typing up like 3 or 4 ideas that I had for you for like, hey, maybe we could do this, this, this. And like before I could hit send, you sent all the questions. I'm like, oh, I guess you're on this. So I just want to make sure this goes on screen. Jeff admitted that I did beat him to that today. So that's good. So let me ask you, as you were thinking, you're like, and Jeff's like, I was like, this Jeff, me Jeff, the third person Jeff was like, hey Chad, you got to moderate next week. What made you go with the topic that you went with? Which by the way, for those of you who maybe weren't in the chat, I'm gonna go back. The topic was thriving in adversity. So what was your reason for behind that? And I think I know, but I want to hear you say it.
Sure, because I think right now is like one of the most adverse situations we've been in as educators for the entire country. And this isn't even just like a one state, one district, one county, and we've had horrible things happen in schools, like whether it's a school shooting or like a disease outbreak or a natural weather disaster in
Mm-hmm.
certain pockets or
Sure.
districts or areas where like the whole country knows about it. This is literally one of the first times ever the entire country, almost every single state, not all of them yet, but we'll get there probably, has literally been like, yeah, we're just going to shut all this down and let teachers figure out how to make it go online. And so there's this huge, I think, unifying feeling we have of, okay, well, let's figure this out. And so I really think like adversity just made sense to talk about because
Yeah.
every educator in the country is facing adversity right now.
Yeah.
Maybe they're facing adversity at home because they have to figure out how to Skype with their entire family also home because we're all quarantined and locked down. Or maybe they're facing adversity trying to reach their students who don't have internet. Maybe they're facing adversity trying to figure out how to use Zoom and record lessons for the first time ever, right? Like there's adversity happening for everyone in this country. And there are certain
but even more, the crazy thing about this is it's not just this country; it's all over the world.
Yeah, that's a great
We had
point.
an educator this morning dropping in during our daily drop in our Facebook group that's from India, and he's going through the same thing. Like he's on his whole country is on lockdown. It's not, and even going even further, what's crazy about this, excuse me, is that it's not just education; it's everything.
No,
every aspect of our life is in this crazy lockdown, crazy situation, and then also teachers have to continue to try and educate. Like
I want to thank the social studies teacher in this chat, Jeff Kaplan, for reminding us that in 1918 the Spanish flu also shut down schools.
I also want to note something about the Spanish flu is that it actually originated in Kansas, in the United States. The only reason it was called the Spanish flu is because during that time we were at war. And us and all of our allies, and this is true, this is crazy knowledge, us and all of our allies had signed a pact that we were not allowed to put anything negative in the news because we didn't want our current enemies at the time to think that we were defeated at all. That flu should have been called the American flu. It was worse here, and it was started here. The problem was, look at this cat. The problem was, the reason we got the sort of name of Spanish flu is because Spain was the one country that reported more on it. They actually had one of the lowest cases of anywhere in the world.
Wow.
It's a really crazy, interesting story. And in a lot of European countries during that time, I'm not sure if the United States got there, but I know in European countries, it got so bad with the quarantine, what they were doing. If you spit in public, you went to jail.
Wow.
Like we're talking about how bad it is here. Like they locked down. But yeah, interesting little fact.
So that's pretty amazing. Also, I just want to take a note. Like, if you're a social studies teacher at almost any grade level, you just got your lesson for tomorrow. You just replay the last 20. Done.
Hey, not just the hat rack, my friend. Not just that. Actually, so that was actually on a NPR Up First, their awesome podcast. They did a special edition bonus episode this past Saturday. It was all about the similarities and differences between the two, and it's really, really interesting based on.
I think that's something that's interesting. I was thinking about this today, actually. Eventually, we'll talk about Mastery Chat. I mean, that's cool too. But if you think about it, like this happening 15 years ago, 20 years ago, we would have been in a much more difficult situation than we are now.
Oh yeah.
So like, I was thinking about like with where technology is, even though it's not as easy, there's some shifts and changes, and there's still some adversity. We are much more well equipped at this point in time than we would have been 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Attempt it right now.
Yeah, I mean, like
we would have been like put together as enough paper packet to last them for 3 months, and then make them all turn it in at the end, or just forget it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So at least we're able to kind of continue some semblance of learning, and teachers are working their tails off to make that happen. And I think we saw that tonight in Mastery Chat, just like we've been seeing it throughout our feeds, throughout our discussions, throughout our morning check-ins and everything else. We've just been seeing this plethora of evidence of just teachers doing everything they can to make the best situation out of the worst circumstances.
So let me ask you, Chet, and I know it's always weird when you're the moderator because you make the questions and then you don't always necessarily remember what the questions are until you get into the chat. But do you recall, were there any questions or a question that when you were putting together, you were like, man, I'm really interested to see what the answers are to this, or I'm wondering maybe that you like weren't exactly sure it could go either way, or you were just excited about it. Maybe was there anyone that stood out?
One of my biggest one of the first questions was, like what adversities are you faced with right now? And I was really interested to see like the variety of adversity teachers were facing, right? Some teachers were like, yeah, I'm pretty good. And then other teachers were like, I'm losing my mind. I have no idea what's going on. So like there was this whole spectrum. And then teachers, depending on their district and equity issues and things like that, like there are schools and districts having the same problem with vastly different outcomes and vastly different solutions being implemented. And I think that was really, really interesting to me. Many teachers pointed out in this chat tonight that equity issues are going to be highlighted
Oh yeah.
and exposed explicitly by this situation. You are going to have clear indications of where some of this inequity lies in education based on at-home access, based on home life situations, and things like that. I mean, I spent my entire career in high needs inner city education. So, I mean, hearing some of that will absolutely resonated with me. You know, Alex Valensik there, so they're doing tech free to maintain the equity, so that some, you know, because the truth is, you know, you don't want to create a situation where only some of the students can be successful.
Yeah.
We have to create educational opportunities where every single student can be successful. So
I want to say hi to Alex. Thanks for jumping in, Alex. Hi to Kelly. I see Kelly's in here. Rick Stockburger's in here. What's up, Rick?
Wow.
Joe says, I remember in college, correspondence courses were actually doing the assignment and mailing in.
Old school there.
Yeah, no kidding. Kaplan says we need to take all that all that we're leading right now into the next year. Schools should change with this. That's been a very common conversation.
1,000%.
Is a lot of I'm interested to see how it's going to change. It's going to be really curious to see like how much of these things carry over and how much let's flip it right back to normal people go, and like, you know, do people take away certain pieces and now that they're familiar with some of these new technologies because they have to be right now, are they then going to utilize them to implement, or are they just gonna be like, oh good, I finally don't have to do Zoom anymore, I don't have to do Meets anymore, I can get into this. It's gonna be really interesting to see whenever it is that we get back what carries over and what doesn't, what changes and what doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, especially because what is happening right now is teachers are being forced to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So if you were waiting to figure out how to record a lesson till summer, if you were waiting to crack open Google Classroom and see what it's all about, if you were kind of like teetering on maybe trying some new things, you have been thrown in the deep end overnight immediately, and you better just kind of figure it out. Now, there's some really bad parts to that. There's some anxiety, there's some stress, but as things settle and as teachers adjust, it's not like we're going to learn all these new tools as educators and then forget all of them next year. What I think is going to happen is you're going to see a huge increase in comfort level with things like integrating technology into classrooms, with things like moving to digital resources and recording videos for students and things like that.
Self-paced learning. I mean,
yeah. So we got a ton of response from our grid method teachers that went, we're sweet, like we're good.
Yeah.
So that, and I've literally had calls with administrators that are like, I had 8 teachers tell me that they weren't worried about this because they were already running things similarly in their classroom because they were using self-paced mastery learning or the grid method.
So it became more of a logistics thing versus a how am I going to help them learn and stuff.
Yeah, and if you really think about this, and you know, I was just talking on a podcast prior to the Mastery Chat about this as well. Like what this has done is it's taken all the distraction away from planning and classroom management, right? So like, if you think about it, we work with teachers all the time. And one of the biggest things is, I don't want to try this because I'm not sure if my students can handle it or if they can do it or if my management will suffer. But now we can focus 1,000% of our energy on purposeful planning, alignment, engaging activities, not adding a lot of fluff because we just want to make sure they're getting the basics, right? Yep. So like, I'm really, really excited. It's hard to be excited at this point in time, but I guess I don't have that much of a hard time with it. But I'm getting really excited about, so when all these teachers have looked at education from this bare bones view and really examined some of their practices and integrated with these new tools, like how much better are they going to be when they get that physical environment back?
Yeah, they get to remove some of those hurdles that they've already been overcoming. So now it's
I refuse to believe that every teacher is going to go back, you know, to lecturing 60 minutes a day in their classroom once they've completely digitized the experience or remotely created an experience for their students. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to change everyone the exact same way because
it's going to be
like Alex was saying, but like it's definitely going to be interesting. I also think there's going to be a huge shift in the way we look at and respect teachers, because now parents are kind of seeing a lot of what they deal with from the at-home basis. I also think we're going to start to examine things like state testing and evaluating schools, because this is shining a huge light on equity practices in education. And this has been a pandemic that made a lot of states so far. I think more are going to come. That said, you know what? Like, forget about the test.
Well, that brings up Jackie. State test. Will it stay? Will it go?
So I don't know if it'll go. I don't know if
I don't think it'll go, because they have to find some way to measure it in order to do a lot of the other things that go into it. But I wonder if we'll finally be able to shift it in some way where it's not such a point of a source of stress and anxiety. Can we find a way where it's not that? And maybe they'll start to look at some of these other things that they can measure that aren't just state testing, and rather than this one test that defines everything each year, that it's, I don't know, more divided, and they're taking a broader look. They're taking in things like you said, like the equity issues, and they're taking some more things into account. It's gonna be really interesting to see that level, right, at the state level. And like you said, like, how are we assessing teachers? How are we assessing schools after all this?
Yeah.
How do you assess this? And if we come back in the fall and for the most part kids seem to be doing well, right, because teachers are vamping, then like, how can, you know what I mean? Like, then you're assessing, okay, well, they did okay without that. So, but again, how do you assess argument without something? So it's just this back and forth, like chicken and egg.
The bureaucratic argument for testing a lot of times is, well, if we don't test, then like teachers don't have to work as hard, or they're not going to be as stressed. Well, like, literally, they took the test away, and teachers are working more hours right now on their online curriculums and figuring this out than they have ever in the classroom. So, like, I really think this is going to shift, and it's going to put a spotlight on education in a good way. I think this is going to make us re-examine, rethink, retool some of our practices and some of our overarching ideas. I don't know if it's going to drastically change what school looks like overnight necessarily, but I do think it's going to start the conversations that can allow that to happen. So I think those are two separate things.
I think that's a very level-headed way to look at it, because I think we can get excited in one sense of, oh, maybe look at rid of state testing, or it can change everything. But the realistic thing is those bureaucratic things are going to things are going to come back. They're still going to fall in place. There's still money in federal funds and stuff like that. So that's going to cause that. But I think you're right, where the biggest thing and the focus is that you're going to have these conversations. They're already started, and they're going to continue. And because they're already started, those voices are already being heard. They're just going to get louder. And I think we're going to be able to have that. And I do think it'll eventually lead to positive change.
P. Sloan also just mentioned, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead. No.
So P. Sloan also mentioned that students will value school and the personal interactions more now. And I really think that maybe this is giving students a view of like what life's like when your teacher's not in the room, or maybe giving them a view that they haven't seen of their teachers. So maybe this is humanizing some of their teachers for the students, and more on the other side, maybe seeing some of the students that you have in their home life is giving you a view, a different vantage of their perspective, right?
I know. I want to talk just because Kaplan mentioned it earlier. It was up earlier. He said, "Where's it? Where's it at?" It was, you were in the middle of something. I didn't want to interrupt. Man, what was way up here, Jeff? I don't remember what he said here, but he told the story the other day with me, is that like they did a Zoom call and he had all of his students on, and then he had to do something with his dog. So they met his dog, and he then met all of his students' animals. And it was like, so it's a positive outlook of like, they're interacting in a different way. They're seeing it. They saw him in a completely different world, right? They get to see into his life, and then he got to see them in a whole different world. He got to meet their pets. And like, I've said this a bunch of times telling the story, but like, to me, I'm like, what do we bond over more than our pets? Like, let's be real here. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so like this connection, and that's what we're talking about. Like, it's seeing a different light. And I know you were referencing like seeing into the world, what they have to deal with, but also just in a general sense, like you're connecting differently.
Who they are, where they're from. Right? Yeah.
They're in their house. They're in their room. But I do think you touched on a really cool point, or a really important point that, and P. Sloan brought it up too, about it was what who started there, was that the kids are going to see things differently. I think they are going to respect or appreciate that personal interaction more. I know my son, as one example, is just missing his classmates and his teacher like crazy right now. And you would never know because he just wants to play video games and stuff like that. But when I saw him get on the screen, when he saw his classmates and his teacher, like he just lit up. He was so excited to see them, and I think they're gonna have that. And Ray said something this morning in a comment during our drop-in about also like if we're providing them with the right resources and we're working with our students now, like we have the potential right now to turn them into students who want to learn and are eager to learn because they have to control, they have to guide themselves. Obviously that's a challenge in itself, but there's a lot of opportunity here. Right when this all started happening, you said it, I don't remember what we were doing, whether it was on a chat or I think it was on a drop-in, the very first drop-in that you said, I refuse to look at this as anything but an opportunity. And I feel like we've carried that as our team to try and stay that with that optimistic, positive outlook and the fact that, like, yes, it's a lot of craziness. There's so many new challenges and old challenges that are just heightened right now, but there's also a lot of opportunity. And we have to see that positive. We have to drive through that. That's the only way we get through this, really. So.
Yeah, and there's also a highlight on, socio-emotional learning for students, SEL and school culture pieces, right? So we're now, Jackie, just, you put it up on the screen just a second ago. And it was that, like, it's acknowledging that schools are so much more than this place where students get homework from, right? Yep. It's so much more. Schools are getting their social connections, their emotional connections. They're getting support, having conversations with people they like and adults that support them. They're getting meals, right? So, like, I think from an outward in view, the sociological function of school is being highlighted right now because it's no longer there. Yeah. So now I think communities, I'd love to see like a longitudinal study and say how many levies are going to be up next year and how many pass versus don't pass compared to before.
Really, this, right? That's really
like, how many communities have said, well, I don't really benefit from our school, or I don't really feel the benefit from my school because I don't have any kids or I don't have to go there. Well, now, like, you're literally seeing an entire population of students not going to the physical location of a school and all of the services, that school offers that community, other than just instructing the students or teaching the students. So now you're really seeing the overall impact schools and centers of education have on the community. And when you remove that impact, like, how much more the community has to step in to like lift these kids up, and between parents or whoever trying to figure all this out.
I want to say hi real quick. Sorry. Hi to Hamilton who jumped in. Hi to Christy jumping in. Hi to Veronica jumping in as well. Sorry, go ahead. Keep going, man. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Christy's echoing what you said is I hope that someone tracks those. Maybe Chad's the one who needs to track those. I think.
No.
Hey, Veronica.
That's
yes.
not at all.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to say hi because a bunch of people just jumped in real quick. So I want to make sure I got it.
So I really, really think that you are changing the perception of what school is.
Yes.
You are changing the perception of how powerful school culture is. You are changing the perception of how important social connections are for students and people in general. Right? So, like, let's look at this from a human perspective. We all have to talk through screens right now because we're not allowed to be together. Like, I haven't been in the same physical space as you for 2 or 3 weeks at this point because we've been locked down in this entire state. I know. but if you really think about that, like, how much more how much more valuable is human connection right now than it's ever been?
It is, and it's this weird thing of like it's a lot of like just not having the opportunity to. I was actually listening to Gary Vaynerchuk on a podcast. And he was talking with, it was a audio from a video clip of him and talking with his team on Zoom. And he was talking about a similar thing. And he told them all, he goes, look, next time I see you and I'm unable to see you, I'm hugging the heck out of all of you. He goes, and the crazy thing is, he's like, I don't see you that much. Because he's traveled, he travels all over the world. He's like, I don't see you that much, but it's the fact that, like, I can't see you right now. Like, I don't even have the opportunity to see you. Like, we don't even have this option to go see each other. So what I hope really happens from this is that we realize how valuable that little bit of time we get with people is, and we take the time to go see those friends we haven't seen in a while, go visit grandparents more often, make sure we check in people more, because right now we can't. And so we're helpless and we can't, but hope we realize how valuable it is, the fact that we do have that freedom, we do have the ability to do it when we can. And when this all goes away, that we do take the time to just spend more time together, I think is a huge piece. So more comments coming in here. So yep, that's up. So Peace Sloan, Alex asking, a lot of people talking about viral videos all over the place that will do anything for schools. Wonder if they're going to keep it. I really do think that's going to change. You've said a few times, it's really going to change the way people think about educators. I really do think that's going to happen. Hi, Brianne. Good to see you. I saw it was like week 2, and someone had tweeted, she's like, I've been a second grade math teacher or something like that for 2 days, and I now believe teachers should make $1 million a year. No, a week. Just absolutely. So totally agree. It's incredible. I work with teachers all the time. I already have a ridiculously level of amount of respect for teachers, and my respect has gone up just from having to deal with it a little bit more with my kids. And we've done pretty well. They're good kids, and teachers have done well. But yeah, it's just it's crazy. So I'm loving just how many people are getting in here. So I wanted to throw, and then we're gonna go. I don't want to keep us too long here, but I wanted to throw just one question at you and get your answer to it. So give me a second. I'm trying to pick. I want to give you an easy one. I'll give you one. Let me see here. I'm going to do that. This will be a good one for you. Question 2 was, what is one way you've been thriving? It's okay to brag in this new environment for education. So that's an interesting one to think to throw you, because your world was completely flipped upside down. I don't know.
I don't recognize the
most weeks Chad is on the road 4 days, sometimes 5, sometimes 6 days a week. And his days are pretty well, I don't want to say like they're never the same, but you get planned out pretty quick, because
they're playing for me. I really don't have a lot of control,
right? You're going into school, and you're done with the school, you're doing reporting, you're checking in, you're getting, checking with the team and stuff like that, or you're flying somewhere,
whatever. Yeah.
So like everything's changed. Are you finding any ways right now over the last 2 weeks or so? It's been 2, maybe 3 weeks. That are you finding ways that maybe that you focused on something, or you've been forced to get back into something that you're better at?
So both of us run a lot. That's something that's continued, that hasn't really changed. It's not like I started running during this, but that's something I've been able to maintain. So in terms of like self-care, but I feel like I'm getting more connected back to the day-to-day operations of our team and what we're doing. Sure. We often made the joke that I'm traveling so much. So luckily, like Jeff and Ray kind of have things on lockdown most of the time. So like I can trust that things are going to keep moving and rolling, where like I just had to kind of grind and travel and do what we had to do. So I definitely feel more in touch with some of those things. I'm also having to do things that I haven't done like as much since like we started this together.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm feeling more connected to our messaging and some of our content more so than I have.
Sorry, I had to throw it up there.
More so than I have, in a while. And I kind of feel a little bit refreshed in that. It's like still a weird adjustment for me to kind of go back to just doing that stuff again. I'm not saying I never did it, but just consistently on a daily basis, kind of being in those trenches as opposed to like in the buildings, doing the presentations, doing the, what have you. So
we're all just trying to adjust to having to see
deal with me on a regular basis.
Like, is he still around? Shouldn't he be traveling somewhere? Can we put him on a plane somewhere?
But it's been, I think it's in thriving in a way that it's really helped me kind of reconnect with the roots of when we started this.
Yeah, because when we started, it was it was the two of us.
It was you and me, and
it was me telling you, hey Chad, make this, create this, video this, blog this, all this, doing that. But as our team's growing, we have such amazing people on our team, and with our guest bloggers and all like that, like you haven't had to do as much. My cat is literally attacking me right now. So that's a really cool angle to look at that. And I agree with you. I think it has connected you back to some of the roots of how we started this whole thing and what we did. You know? It's all started with ebooks, so it's interesting.
If we weren't just doing that. So I think another thing that's happening is, I'm having to have able to have really kind of frank, transparent discussions with principals, administrators we work with, schools and district personnel we work with. And it's just kind of this, how are you doing? And it's not about the next visit I'm going on. It's not about that presentation that we had to cancel. It's literally just like, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything? And like, so the conversations I think that I'm having, like, human to human, are getting more sort of supportive. And I feel like that's kind of how we're thriving as humans right now. Cause like everyone I talk to is like, starting the pretext of the conversation is, how are you doing through all this? Like, that's literally the pretext of every conversation I've had with a person, even if they're a person I haven't ever talked to before. How are you doing through all this? This must be crazy for you. So there's this weird amount of empathy that we're all just sort of having for each other right now, because we're all having the same experience together. And that's sort of an empowering thing. And the ability to have those frank discussions and get past if so-and-so is running what you showed them, or if the training's getting moved, or is the contract, like, and that sort of back end stuff, to like, how are you doing? What are your pain points right now? Can we help each other? Right. And that's been really cool. And I don't know if I would have had that opportunity as frequently or as quickly with the same amount of people that I have in the last 2 weeks, probably.
Yeah, I definitely shout out to our team. I think one way that the team is absolutely thriving right now is just the focus on supporting people.
We literally shifted every plan we had. we can't.
That's always been the foundation of everything we do, but we really we put a big shift, big effort, and the team.
So let's. I do appreciate that too. So that's a way I feel like we're thriving as a team in terms of the Teach Better team. Like Ray did an amazing job putting together this whole strategic plan for the daily drop-in from how to help teachers. But we literally got together as a team. We're like, okay, what do we have to do for the next however long this happens? Yeah. What do we need to do? Because none of us had the right answer. We just had ideas. Yeah. And so like, we've literally been just trying to find ways to help. And every decision we've made over the past month has literally been, we can't worry about X right now. What do we need to do to help teachers? What do we need to do to help the schools we're working with, the teachers we're working with, the people we're working with? What do we need to do to help the people that we're not working with, but find our information? And like, I love that about what we do, because that was our first concern. Because everything, like, and that's something I'm really proud of with what we've built. Yeah. As the foundation for what the Teach Better team is what can we do to help people be better in the worst situation possible? Yeah. And that's something I continue to be proud of. I'm proud of both of us for building an organization that does that. So in terms of bragging on us, like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Veronica says, I've been able to see the strength of students to work independently, as well as become more aware of ways to support. She's also become more aware of ways to support students who struggle. Kaplan's asking if I'm the new Tiger King. He won't leave me alone. Like, he's so mad at me. Like, you guys can't see it right now, but he's looking at me like he's mad right now. Anyway, he's my little dude. He's you also can't see my hand. He's like petting my shoulder right now. Anyway, you were mentioning like one of the things that we can do. Well, one of the first things that we came up with is we're like, all right, what can we do? How can we support people? And Ray's like, we're gonna go live in our Facebook group every single morning, Monday through Friday, bright early in the morning. We're gonna give them something that becomes a part of the routine, support, and we're just going to be there, and we'll just do whatever they need us to do. And we're like, all right, sounds good. Like, how do we put that on the YouTube channel? Yeah, we should do that. And we'll throw it up on the podcast as well. So we're doing that. So tomorrow, you're up bright and early tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. Central time, going live in our private Facebook group. If you're not in there, you need to get in there right away. You've got Mr. Mark Heller in there, which is great. Mark is a principal in Illinois, runner as well. It's just a good guy, a vision. I think of Mark as a visionary. The dude is always he's always like 15 steps ahead of what he wants to do and what he's trying to do,
strategic,
and how he's trying to take care of his teachers. Yeah. So, Alex says more Cat, less Jeff. Totally get it, dude. Totally get it. So tomorrow morning, Chad will be live in the Facebook group for that. So make sure you tune into that. We've got a lot of other things that we are working on. Some more virtual.
Just 10 hours from now, I'll be live.
Yeah. So we have other things coming, working on virtual PD coming up, things like that. We do have a ton of new downloads. We've got a new course out. We've got, like I said, the bonus, the drop-in happening every Monday through Friday. And if you go over to the website, we've got it up front. That's all the remote learning and everything that you need all in one place. So you can check that out there. Next week, Mastery Chat, Jennifer Apple is leading us, which is awesome. And I love her topic. It is the positive impacts of COVID-19 and coronavirus. So we're going to put that positive spin that we talked about it quite a bit here tonight. And Jen's going to lead us to really focus on that and see those things. And I think that's really, really important. So, Veronica, thank you for those kind words. Really appreciate that. That means a lot to us. I can't even explain how much that actually means. I think Ray should do that every day. Joe, are you saying you would rather you don't like when Chad and I are on video and you want Ray every morning? Because I mean, I agree.
I can't really argue,
but she's gonna hold that over our heads if that's what you mean. So Ray has been taking a blunt of this. I got to go the last 2 days, which was awesome, and you're on tomorrow. But anyway, next week, Master Chat, Jennifer Apple, looking at the positive impacts of COVID-19 and coronavirus. Tomorrow morning, Chad. Live in the Facebook group. Make sure you get in there with Mark Heller. We appreciate everything. I am so pumped by how much activity we had on this video tonight. And Master Chat continues to be packed every week. We're hitting numbers higher than we have in a long time. So that's been great. And seeing the sharing that's going on. So we appreciate everything you are doing as a teacher and everything that you're doing as our Teach Better world. You are why we do everything we do. So we appreciate you. Have an awesome night, and we'll see you in the morning.